4 days ago, Alexandra Eala walked into Berlin as a wild card nobody outside hardcore tennis circles was seriously talking about. Today, after defeating a Queen's Club champion, a Wimbledon champion, and one of the most battle-tested veterans in women's tennis, the entire sport is asking a completely different question. Did the Berlin Open just witness the birth of a future Grand Slam champion? Because what unfolded across those 4 astonishing days on the grass courts of Germany did not feel normal. It did not feel like a lucky run. It did not feel like a Cinderella story that happened to catch fire for one magical week. It felt bigger than that. It felt like the exact moment a young player stopped being promising and became dangerous. And the craziest part? Nobody saw it coming. Not the broadcasters, not the analysts, not even the draw itself. At the beginning of the tournament, Alexandra Eala was buried near the bottom of the sheet, listed quietly beside the small WC, symbol that marks a wild card entry. No fanfare, no headline, no expectation. Just another young player handed an opportunity most people assumed would end quickly. That is usually how wild card stories go in professional tennis. You are invited because organizers believe in your potential, not because anybody realistically expects you to survive the second week of the event. Wild cards are often treated like temporary guests at someone else's party. They are there to gain experience, soak in the atmosphere, maybe steal a match if everything goes perfectly, and then quietly disappear before the real contenders begin fighting for trophies. That was supposed to be Alexandra Eala's role in Berlin.
Arrive, compete,
Learn.
leave.
That was the script. But sports has always had a strange relationship with scripts. Sometimes all it takes is one player refusing to follow them. And that is exactly what happened. Because there is something uniquely dangerous about a player nobody prepares for. Nobody studies the wild card's tendencies late at night with coaches gathered around laptops. Nobody spends hours designing tactical plans specifically for her. Nobody enters the locker room nervous about drawing her name. A wild card walks onto the court carrying invisibility. And invisibility, in elite sports, can become a weapon. Especially when the player holding it is far better than anyone realizes. Round 1 delivered an absolutely brutal challenge. Donna Vekic, a grass court specialist, a proven veteran, fresh off a title run at Queen's Club, the type of opponent who punishes inexperience immediately. If tournament organizers had intentionally designed a nightmare first-round matchup for a young wild card, this would have looked very close to it. On paper, the matchup barely made sense. Vekic had the experience, the power, the confidence, the reputation. Everything pointed toward a routine opening round victory for the Croatian. And early on, the match followed the expected pattern. Vekic looked composed, relaxed, in control. Eala looked like a talented young player trying to survive the moment. But then something shifted. Quietly at first, almost invisibly, a perfectly timed backhand winner down the line. A fearless return game. A serve that landed exactly where it needed to under pressure. And perhaps most importantly, a kind of emotional calm that did not belong to someone supposedly overwhelmed by the occasion. Point by point, game by game, the atmosphere changed. What initially looked like a mismatch slowly transformed into something deeply uncomfortable for the favorite. Because Vekic began realizing she was not controlling the match anymore. The wild card was. The rallies became tighter. The crowd became louder. And suddenly the defending Queen's Club champion looked uncertain. By the time the final point landed, the scoreboard displayed something almost nobody predicted. Alexandra Eala had won. Not stolen. Not survived. Won. The reigning Queen's Club champion was out of the tournament in the very first round. And somehow, despite the magnitude of the upset, most of the tennis world still had not fully noticed.
That was about to change.
Because the reward for defeating Donna Vekic was not relief. It was Elena Rybakina. And that changed everything. There are certain names in tennis that immediately alter the emotional atmosphere of a tournament. Elena Rybakina is one of them. Former Wimbledon champion. One of the most feared servers in the women's game. A player capable of making elite opponents look helpless for entire matches. Rybakina does not simply beat people. She overwhelms them. She silences them. She removes hope from the other side of the net. Against most players, especially inexperienced younger opponents, her combination of size, power, and flat hitting feels almost unfair on grass. Which is why nearly everyone assumed Berlin was where Alexandra Eala's beautiful little run would end. This was supposed to be the reality check. The moment where the fairy tale collided with world-class firepower. The moment where the wild card was reminded that potential and greatness are not the same thing. Instead, the exact opposite happened. Alexandra Eala walked onto that court and played with astonishing fearlessness. Not reckless tennis. Not desperate tennis. Fearless tennis. There is a difference. She returned aggressively, moved brilliantly, absorbed Rybakina's pace without panicking, and most shockingly of all, she never once looked intimidated. That was the moment people started paying real attention, because beating one dangerous player can happen. But dismantling a Wimbledon champion in straight sets on grass? That demands answers. The atmosphere around the tournament transformed almost instantly. The side courts started filling. Phones came out everywhere. Fans who barely knew her name 2 days earlier were suddenly searching highlights online trying to understand what they had missed. Commentators changed their tone completely. Alexandra Eala was no longer a nice story. She had become a legitimate threat. And then came the match that may have revealed the most about her entire week. Alina Svitolina, one of the toughest competitors of her generation. A veteran built entirely around resilience, discipline, and mental endurance. Svitolina has made a career out of exposing young players who mistake momentum for maturity. She drags them into uncomfortable rallies, extends pressure points, tests their emotional control. For years, she has been one of the sport's ultimate examinations of composure. And against Alexandra Eala, she immediately tried to do exactly that. This was not power versus power anymore. This was psychological warfare. Could the young wild card maintain her level after the emotional high of defeating Rybakina? Could she handle expectations? Could she survive the mounting pressure of suddenly becoming the center of attention? Svitolina pushed constantly. Every game felt heavy. Every rally felt exhausting. Every point demanded emotional discipline. But what made this performance different from the earlier victories was not just the tennis. It was Alexandra Eala's response to pressure. Pressure did not break her. It sharpened her. Every time Svitolina tried to turn the match into a grind, Eala answered. Every time the moment grew bigger, her level rose with it. The confidence became impossible to ignore. Not arrogance. Not emotion.
Belief.
Real belief. The kind that only appears when a player internally understands something before the rest of the world catches up. By the end of the match, the result was undeniable. Another elite opponent eliminated. Another statement delivered. Another impossible step completed. 3 major victories. 3 different styles of opponents. 3 entirely different tactical battles. And Alexandra Eala passed every single one. At that point, Berlin no longer belonged to the tournament favorites. It belonged to her. The wild card had become the story. Fans who normally ignored early summer grass court tennis were suddenly tuning in. Social media exploded. Philippine flags appeared everywhere in the crowd. Commentators stopped asking whether she could compete and started asking how far this could go. And then, just as the dream reached its absolute peak, the tournament delivered one final obstacle. Linda Noskova. And unlike the earlier opponents, Noskova carried something uniquely dangerous into the semifinal.
History.
Earlier in the season, Noskova had completely dominated Alexandra Eala in Indian Wells. Not edged past her. Not survived a close match. Dominated her. The type of loss that stays buried somewhere in a player's memory even after confidence improves. And from the opening games in Berlin, it was obvious Noskova remembered exactly how she had done it. She attacked early, served aggressively, took time away immediately, refused to let Eala settle into the flowing rhythm that carried her through the previous rounds. Every time the crowd sensed momentum building for the wild card, Noskova answered ruthlessly. It was the first match all week where Alexandra Eala looked truly uncomfortable. But what made the semi-final unforgettable was not the defeat itself. It was the fight. Because even when the match started slipping away, Eala never emotionally disappeared. She chased impossible balls. Extended rallies she had no business surviving. Searched desperately for answers against an opponent determined not to give her any. That mattered. More than people realize. Because elite athletes often reveal themselves most clearly in defeat, not victory. And what Berlin revealed about Alexandra Eala during that semi-final loss may ultimately matter more than the wins themselves. The dream run ended one match short of the final. The scoreboard became permanent. Linda Noskova advanced. Alexandra Eala did not. But if you stop the story there, you completely misunderstand what Berlin actually was. Because the real story was never about the trophy. It was about transformation. Think about what truly happened across that week. A wild card nobody prepared for walked into one of the biggest grass court tournaments in the world and defeated a Queen's Club champion, a Wimbledon champion, and one of the toughest veterans on tour. Not over 6 months. Not across an entire season. In a single week. That changes everything. For years, the conversation surrounding Alexandra Eala revolved around the same word. Potential. Future star. One day. Eventually. Maybe. Berlin erased all of that. Nobody calls you the future after you beat champions on grass in straight sets. Nobody labels you promising after you dismantle elite opponents under enormous pressure. Berlin was not a glimpse of what Alexandra Eala might someday become. It was proof of what she already is. And that should make the rest of the WTA Tour deeply uncomfortable. Because players do not get weaker after weeks like this. They become more dangerous. The hardest thing to develop in professional sports is not technique. It is belief. You can train serves, improve movement, strengthen your body, but belief is different. Belief is earned through evidence. And now Alexandra Eala possesses evidence. She knows she can beat elite players because she already has. That changes how athletes walk onto courts, how they approach pressure, how they respond during tie breaks, how they look across the net at names that once felt untouchable. The psychological barrier is gone now. And once that barrier disappears, careers change forever. That is why Berlin mattered. Not because of the semi-final result, because of what it unlocked. Every great career contains a tournament where something internal permanently shifts. A week where potential transforms into identity. A week where a player stops hoping she belongs among the elite and starts understanding that she already does. Berlin felt exactly like that moment for Alexandra Eala. And now comes the truly frightening part for the rest of the tennis world. Wimbledon is next. The biggest grass court tournament in existence. The most iconic stage in tennis. And Alexandra Eala is arriving there carrying something infinitely more dangerous than hype. Momentum. Confidence. Proof. Before Berlin, opponents saw an inexperienced wild card. Now they see a player who eliminated elite names on the exact same surface Wimbledon demands mastery over. Now they prepare differently. Now they scout her patterns. Now they study her serve placement. Now they know she is capable of dismantling champions if given an opening. That changes the psychology of every future matchup she plays. And perhaps most importantly, it changes Alexandra Eala herself. Because there is a massive difference between entering tournaments hoping to compete and entering believing you can win. Berlin gave her that belief. The semi-final loss hurt. Of course it hurt. One match short of the final after a run like that is a brutal way for momentum to end. But some losses carry strange power. Some defeats become foundations. Some tournaments matter far more than the trophy attached to them. Years from now, when people look back at Alexandra Eala's career, there is a very real chance they will not remember Berlin as the tournament she lost in the semi-finals. They may remember it as the week everything changed. The week a wild card became a contender. The week the tennis world stopped overlooking her. The week the future arrived earlier than expected. Because the Berlin Open did not end with Alexandra Eala lifting a trophy. It ended with something potentially far more important. Recognition. Respect.
Fear.
The trophy went somewhere else. The spotlight did not. A few days earlier, she arrived in Berlin hoping to prove she belonged. She leaves Germany having forced the entire sport to admit that she does. And if this was only the beginning, then Wimbledon might be where the rest of the world finally realizes what Berlin already discovered. Alexandra Eala is no longer just the future of women's tennis. She may already be part of its present.